Good evening, guys. Another big match away days. Here we go.
I get those goosebumps every time.
I just have to get the big fella off the bench.
Could this be their last chance now? In it comes, Monster to the post! He scored! Harry Monster scored!
I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too long, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hind to throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. 713 through the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me outside? I'm slipping low-key. I'm slipping low-key and hiding. Slide rider. I get those goosebumps every time. You come around, yeah. You ease my mind. You make everything feel fine. Worry about those times. I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hind.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Loaded Mag NUFC. We're back again, another match preview, another away days. And of course, back with the main man, Mr. Chris Howe, the old Brandon Blaze in the house. How you doing, fella? How's things?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, all good. Really looking forward to having Tom on tonight. One of our originals in the away days. I feel like Tom was one of the first ones that we did. So yeah, great to have him back on. And yeah, I'm still racking my brains now, Pete, as to what I'm going to predict for our lineup. But yeah, I'm all good, mate. How are you? How are you doing?
Not too bad. Dortmund midweek out the way. Obviously disappointing to lose, but looking forward to another Premier League game before an international break. Another international break.
Oh,
Drive me mad.
Hate them.
Oh, that's for sure. But no, welcome to everyone in the chat. So many in there already. I'm not going to name you all, but you know who you are, mods and all. If you haven't already, click the like and subscribe to the channel. Come and join us and get those algorithms up, all the housekeeping, all the stuff that you know already. There we go. On point as always, Mr. Chris Hall. And first and foremost, thank you for watching and joining us. But of course, away days is not away day. What's the?
It was on the other brand, so I had to switch it over.
Little switcheroo, but away days isn't away days without the opposition viewing. That's absolute pleasure to welcome back Tom Jordan from Back of the Net fan channel. So welcome, Tom. How you doing?
All good, guys. Nice to be back on. I wish we had a little bit more positive spirits from a Bournemouth point of view, but looking forward to this one at the weekend, boys.
Yeah, definitely. Always look forward to the Bournemouth games because we get to chat to you, Tom, and always a pleasure as well. Look, we had the defeat in sort of Dortmund. Obviously, I don't know whether to put it on the screen or not, but like you had the defeat.
No need for that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My bad. But it wasn't a great defeat. We'll get a little snippet on that before we move forward and look to the weekend in a second. But I think something that we could all be happy about to start with. Let's start with a smile, and that's let's talk about Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe, 2 years at Newcastle United this week, put out by the club, and obviously Sky Sports of all people, bigged Eddie Howe up. It doesn't normally happen. Look, we always start with a bit of a loving, Tom, with regards to Eddie Howe, and we'll throw another one in as well. His best mate, Mr. Jason Tindall. These boys running right at the moment together. Absolute dynamic duo. But look, anyhow, 2 years at Newcastle United. Just what have you made of it from an outsider and a former lover, shall we say?
Yeah. No, to be honest, it hasn't surprised me at all. Really hasn't. I mean, go all the way back to them 2 years when he first went in and spoke to a few Newcastle fans who obviously were a little bit sceptical of the position you were in. You hadn't won a game and, were worried about going down. And I remember saying, you'll be absolutely fine because what this guy does is he'll get the best out of what you've already got. which is exactly what he did and what he continues to do. I'm sure we'll go into kind of the injuries and stuff you've got at the moment, and what that means is he has to get the best out of the group, and that's what he always did with us. So it didn't surprise me at all that he kept you up. I felt that he then you'd take a next step, but I didn't expect you to get straight away into the Champions League, which was remarkable. And then, like I say, I watched that PSG game, and even I had goosebumps and that. I was just made up for him. It's so weird. I'm a Bournemouth fan through and through, and I'm there going on a Newcastle on X and watching the pitch cams and stuff, seeing Eddie go around the pitch, because I just can't get away from it. So, and it's not just Eddie, like you said. Obviously JT's there, but also Weatherstone, Purchase. There's so many, and players as well with Callum Wilson and even Matt Ritchie still there. So there's a lot of links, and all of them, now that you got rid of the Weasel Ryan Fraser, every single one of them we love. So I'll be very surprised if you found many Bournemouth fans who said their second Premier League team wasn't Newcastle, and that says all it needs to about him, really. It'll be emotional again with him coming back. It was last time, but hopefully again he realizes he just can't beat Bournemouth. He can't do it, and we'll take a draw again, and we'll go our separate ways for a few months.
I hope that's not the case, but no, I like that. I like your thinking in that. I wanted to get your thoughts on something. Newcastle United, we had a tough start to the season after beating Villa, and we thought we're going to win the league. We're going to win the league. First game of the season, 5-1 against Villa. But then we had a down period. We had the loss to Man City, Liverpool, and Brighton for the first international break, and there was a lot of question marks about Eddie Howe, not from Newcastle fans, but from opposition fans, particularly those that are tending to be fighting at the top end of the table. Like, what did you? I don't know if you heard that at the time and heard the whispers and the mumblings about that, but what's your take on that? Questioning Eddie Howe, firstly, his job at Newcastle, but secondly, there was also calls that he was not the right man for the job.
Yes, it's a weird one, but it doesn't overly surprise me. I think because of where you guys are competing now, right at the top end of the league, I think people just look at it after a few bad games or bad results and go, "Oh, really? This manager was from Bournemouth, and he hasn't really done it. And should they now go and get Conte, Mourinho, them sort of managers, just because you could attract the players now, and you've got the money and you're in the Champions League." I think people just straight away go to that and go and get the tried and tested. And I disagree with it. And I thought that Eddie would come through it, which he has to a degree. Like you say, it was a horrible start of the season. It was similar to us, actually. I think we had Brighton, then Liverpool, and you were the reverse way around, and we both had City, and it was a tough start. But I think it's just that, really. I think he's still, weirdly, despite how well he's done at Newcastle in the 2 years, there's still that thing over him of it's Eddie Howe who's managed Bournemouth and Burnley. And I think they just look at some of the big coaches. You obviously see Villa have got Emery, and then you've got all these different managers, and Poch was available for a bit. And I think they just think, Newcastle can get a big name, so why don't they? When really you see there's money spent, but you actually see the players that are available, and obviously the players that he had when he first comes to the club. And I would question if any other manager could have got the most out of them like Eddie has. I don't need me to tell you what he's done to players like Joe Linton, Miguel Almiron. Do you know what I mean? It's chalk and cheese from who they were. They were almost a laughing stock before Eddie come in, and now they're playing in the Champions League and performing. So, I think the good thing is I don't think the Newcastle fan base, from what I've seen, and the Newcastle, the club as a whole, I think they've kind of, are not listening too much to all that outside noise and just focusing on what's going on, and know that they've got a top coach there and a group and a fan base. They're all together and going in the right direction, mate.
Great stuff. I knew you'd kind of pour cold water on those outside thoughts of Eddie Howe. But like Chris, to be fair, Chris, we've kind of like spoke about it sort of like outside of these shows, like the kind of the comments and the opinions. We sometimes talk about the opinions of one or two on the 12th man at times with regards to Newcastle. But what's your opinion on all that sort of negativity out there? Because for me, I genuinely don't get it. I don't get it at all.
Do you know what, Pete? I just genuinely put it down to jealousy. I think that's all it is. I think there's a lot of fans out there who are just trying to pour cold water or, put a dampener on things. And I think because they look at us and they see how, like, pleased we are, how excited we are, how, like, upbeat we are. I mean, even, the result through the week didn't go our way against Dortmund, but it's just great to be back in there. Obviously we wanted to progress, and there's still hope for us to progress, but we're not going to win every game, which I'm sure a lot of fans will appreciate. But I think because we are so upbeat and because we are so, we're so positive, like, it annoys people, because really there isn't that much for us to be downbeat over. I personally think that's what it is, and they get frustrated. And even in my WhatsApp groups with my mates, whenever I mention Newcastle, Eddie Howe, whatever, I'm always very positive. And as soon as they put something negative on it, because I don't bite to it, they're like, "Oh, what about this? And what about this? What about this? What about this?" But for me, it's just I just see everything very positively now. I'm very much half glass full when it comes to Newcastle, and I haven't always been like that. And I think that's what irritates them.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Definitely down to jealousy, that's for sure. But look, we've got Eddie Howe, and we've got the backing of all of Bournemouth with regards to Eddie Howe. So that'll do for me, that's for sure. But look, 2 years already in charge. Personally, I think there's many more years to enjoy of Eddie Howe, that's for sure. And I don't think the owners are going to budge on that. I think it was Mirdad Gudusi over a year ago, just as Eddie Howe signed his extension after his kind of first year or first season. He made it very, very clear at that point that he sees him as a long-term manager. He even kind of name-checked Sir Alex Ferguson, which is praising itself. But he sees him as being that manager that's going to be lasting that period of time, which for me is massively exciting. But we'll see. But it's great to have those boys in our ranks, that's for sure. But look, I just wanted to take a quick look at the league table. I think you and Chris were just talking just as I was mopping up my mess. But like, it doesn't make for great reading from a Bournemouth perspective from that. But what were you expecting, say, from your first 10, 11 games in the Premier League? Were you expecting it to be this difficult? Or for you, Tom, were you expecting to be a little bit higher up in the league at this stage?
I thought with the fixtures, probably after them amount of games, we'd be in amongst it. I think there's probably two that we feel that we could have got points out of that we didn't. So we went to Everton and were really poor and we lost that game. And you always, the way Everton have been for a long time now, you always feel like you can nick something there. And Wolves at home, unfortunately, we went down to 10 men and conceded late on to lose that one. We could have won that one, really. Apart from that, we obviously got the win against Burnley. And then if people actually looked at it, we've lost to, we drew with West Ham. Yeah. We drew at Brentford, which wasn't bad. We drew with Chelsea. And then we've lost to Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal and Brighton, I think. So, when I say it like that, you go, well, no one would have predicted us to have won them games anyway. So we did know with the fixtures that it was going to be tough and we'd probably be in amongst it. It's probably helped us that the 3 promoted clubs have struggled. But equally, I probably expected maybe Everton and Wolves to be a little bit closer to us. But how quickly it can change. A couple of wins. Obviously, this is a difficult game for us at the weekend. But then we have Sheffield United. And we still got to play, kind of your Lutons, Nottingham Forest coming up. So them sort of games are where it's going to be looked at. But also, it's a new manager. It's a new style. A lot of new players. A few injuries in there as well. I won't talk too much about injuries because you certainly won't feel sorry for me with your injuries at the moment. But yeah, there's been different bits, and I think we've gone from one style to a complete opposite over the summer, and with them fixtures as well. You put them two things together, it's going to take a bit of time. So yeah, we're in touch and distance. There's only goal difference, and I would say that's probably down to the fact that we've played City away and Luton haven't. So yeah, it wouldn't if we're in and around it. I kind of thought we'd be in and around it the first half, this kind of first 10-15 games, and then we'll see where we're at. But on the pitch, I think there's enough there to say we'll be better than 3 teams. It's a long way to go.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Was going to say is my next sort of question to you. Is it? Do you think you've got enough to stay in the league? But you're confident that you believe you will. And I'm going to ask you for an early prediction. If you think you're better than 3 teams, which I agree with. Actually, I do agree with at least 3 teams. I think your team are better than. Who do you think is going to get the drop in your early predictions?
I think now it would be hard to find many that say the 3 that come up won't go back down because they haven't started brilliantly. I think quite often you have one that do really well. I think it was Fulham last season, and it hasn't been the case for the 3 that got promoted. So I probably would say that at the moment. But listen, there's always one gets pulled in. People are quick to forget we were bottom of the league in January. We stayed up with 4 or 5 games to spare.
Yeah.
So it can all change so quickly, and it wouldn't shock me if I don't think they'll go down, but a team like Fulham get dragged in a bit. I think they don't look right without Mitrovic, and I think someone will get dragged in. Obviously, Leicester last season it happened to, like a bit of a surprise. But if I had to put kind of money on it now, I would probably say the 3 that come up don't look quite strong enough. But it can all change in January as well. Remember, with that window, and if change of managers happen, I don't think the manager's even gone yet anywhere, which is a surprise. I think it was about 5 by this point last season. So there might be a few changes. But yes, I'm going to just go Sheffield United, Luton and Burnley, I think.
Okay, Chris, I'm going to come to you. So Sheffield United, Luton and Burnley is Tom's prediction. Everyone in the chat, put your early predictions in who you think could well be relegated from your observations. But Chris, are you in full agreement with Tom, or is there anyone else that you got your eye on?
You're trying to coax me into this, aren't you?
I hope Lisa's listening.
Oh yeah, she sat right by me. Yeah, so I think I struggle to disagree with Tom there. I think the 3 that came up look like the 3 that are going to go down. Out of those 3, I think the one that's got the biggest chance of getting out of it is probably Burnley. I don't give Sheffield United or Luton much hope, if I'm honest. I know Luton are currently out of it at the minute, but I just don't think they're going to have enough, unfortunately, for them. But I think the teams that could potentially get dragged into it, which is going to surprise you there, Pete, I think potentially, I think Forest could struggle. They've lost quite a few big loan players who they had last season, so I think that could be a problem for them. Possibly Fulham. I think Wolves have got too much. I do think Everton are fortunate, and if they keep Dominic Calvert-Lewin fit, and they manage to keep hold of Onana, who I think is a big player for them. I think Ashley Young was a wise signing. I really like Jack Harrison. I think if they can keep him fit as well. I actually believe that Everton have probably got too much this season to go down, but that's purely because of the 3 that have come up. I think, if you compare the 3 that have come up this season to the 3 that went down last season, you got Leicester, Leeds and Southampton, who I think are better than the 3 that come up. And I think they would give more of a challenge to Everton. And I think we've saw that this season in terms of when you look at the league table now, Pete, I think it's quite weird how it's separated out. And I don't think it will be far from what it is now. And I don't mean Bournemouth, by the way, Tom, but what I mean is your teams who you expect at the top have all kind of like shuffled to the top. The teams who are at the bottom, I'd say 13th down, they would be the teams that I would put there. And then you've got your middle of your road teams, probably anywhere between 8th, 9th, and then 12th. So I think it's interesting how the league's already separating out. And I think this could be one season where we see, teams relegated with possibly 3-4 games to go. Because I genuinely think the gulf's that big. And the more that certain clubs push on, I expect Everton to push on. I expect probably Fulham to push on. I think they've got too much. West Ham will obviously push on. I think there will be 6-7 teams at the bottom. I also think Bournemouth will push on as well, by the way, because they've recruited well in the summer. So I think there will be 6-7 teams near the bottom, and they will all be battling it out. And I think come maybe could even be as early as April, where a team just is out, is done. That's genuinely how I see it. And it's similar at the top, Pete. Similar at the top. I think the top 2, top 3 places could be secured and done very early on. And then there's a battle for the 4th and 5th, possibly the last Champions League place, which we're all expecting there to be.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Yeah, I think that's more than a fair prediction. I think that's a good prediction from both of you guys. I'm gonna address the elephant in the room. I'm gonna the blue elephant in the room, should we say? I'm gonna go on who's gonna be in the mix. More hope than anything else. But I do hope that they're in the mix. And actually, a few in the chat have talked about the possible 12-point deduction that was talked about just over
that's
a week
true.
ago.
That's true.
That if that happens, that might change people's perceptions on Everton. I mean, to be fair, if they got deducted 12 points now, they're probably still not too far away from Sheffield United and Burnley anyway. So they could potentially still get out of it. But like I said, I think that's maybe more hope than anything. But the one that kind of sticks out for me that I hadn't thought about really until kind of Tom mentioned it, and you've mentioned it as well, Chris, is Fulham. Because Tom, you're absolutely right. Fulham do not look the same without Mitrovic. They don't have that potency up front, that match winner. And he was a match winner for them. There's no doubt about it. And they just don't look the same. They really don't. And there's no surprise that they've gone from battling at this point last season up at 8th, 7th, 6th, which is what they were for a period last season, to now battling down the lower end of the table. And look, that defeat against Man United at the weekend was bad. Like, Man United were bad. They were dreadful. I watched the game and they still managed to nick a win. And a half decent Fulham team, I think, would have put them to the sword. There's no doubt about it. But we'll see with that one. I think that Fulham are definitely an interesting one to watch. But I do think Bournemouth are definitely going to get out of it. That's for sure. Their team and the way they play, I think, is too good in comparison to those other teams. But I just want to briefly touch on the top end of the table. Chris, I'll stick with you with regard to this. Newcastle United sitting in 6th after 11 games. Close or in and around to the points tally that we had this time last year. Are you happy with that start? Could it have been better for you in your mind, or are you happy with where we are right now? And what do you project sort of in the next month about where we are potentially going to be?
I think we've got a decent run of games. So to answer that last point there, Pete, I think we've got a decent run of games. So I think we're going to give ourselves a chance. And I think by Christmas, we could potentially be in the top 4, top 5. If we carry on the way that we are, I think we've got a decent run now. That Arsenal game was huge. I genuinely felt like that was one big stride towards top 4, beating Arsenal. Because last season or previous seasons, we may not necessarily have won that game, but we really dug in, especially with all the injuries we've got at the moment, which you touched upon earlier. I think I still feel really confident and I think this is the way I described it to you last time, Pete. If we're talking top 5 for the Champions League, I struggle to see 5 teams better than us this season. I really, really do. Obviously, at the moment, there looks like there's 5 better teams, but I fully expect Tottenham to drop off. That Tottenham have now got a silly amount of injuries, which we all predicted. And, if they're missing a Maddison, if they're missing a Romero, a Bissouma, players like that, Udogie, who's been really good for them this season, they're going to really struggle. That's huge. Arsenal are having a bit of a wobble. I still think Liverpool aren't playing very well, but they're managing to get results. I think they've been very, very fortunate this season, none more so than against us, which we won't talk about anymore. But yeah, I mean, the 3 teams that stand out for me as in, I think the top 3 is set, is probably going to be Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool. I think they will finish in the top 3, in my opinion, at the end of the day. But I think 4th and 5th is definitely up for grabs. And do I fancy us against Tottenham and Villa and Brighton? Absolutely. I think we could definitely be in the mix of those. I just can't see 5 clubs better than us at the moment. I think worst case scenario, we'd finish 5th, unless of course we drop off a cliff and we start really struggling. But I just don't see it.
Chris has kind of got us around sort of 5th place, 4th, 5th in the league. For what you've seen this season, do you think that's achievable? Can we recreate what we achieved last season, finishing 4th? For what you've seen this season from Newcastle?
Yeah, I probably agree with most of what Chris said there. I think City will win the league. I think Arsenal will probably get 2nd, and Liverpool just behind in 3rd. And then I actually think it will probably be between Tottenham and Newcastle for that 4th place. it might not matter because obviously fifth could get Champions League anyway. I still think he'll be stronger than Villa. Brighton, yeah, Man U look awful. I think Chelsea will come a little bit, but not enough. So yeah, I really struggle to see how you don't get in the top 5, to be honest with you. But yeah, I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but I have got a little. I said to my mate, a little prediction is Newcastle win the Europa League after coming third in their Champions League group. Whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know. But I just looked at the kind of last couple of fixtures, and you finish at St James's, don't you, against Milan, and look at how the results could go. I think you could go and win the Europa League, which would be a weird one. But yeah, I think fifth in the Europa League. There you go.
Wow. Okay, people in the chat. Would you take that? Fifth in the league, Champions League football potentially, and the Europa League. Predicting as a trophy is Tom. Tom, you can come again, that's for sure. But Chris, what do you make of that?
Oh, I'd take that all day. That'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? I mean, I think the Europa League finals in Dublin this year, if I'm correct in thinking. So yeah, I'd definitely be going to Dublin if we got to the Europa League final, 1,000,000%. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, my wife's not necessarily agreeing with that shout. But yeah, definitely be going over for that. And yeah, no, I mean, getting some silverware in the old cabinet and ensuring Champions League football as well next season, which again gives us that scope to be able to spend and really, try and kick on even more than what we have done already. Because I do believe next summer will be an even bigger window than this summer just gone.
Oh, yeah, massive. That'd be brilliant. To coin a phrase, says it might not be in our hands to finish third, but I do think we're going to beat AC Milan at St James's Park. So I do think it could well ride on what happens in the next group of games when we go to PSG. So not a bad prediction there, Tom. Let's keep an eye on that as that progresses. That's for sure. But look, I think there's been a few questions, so we'll come to those questions in a second. But I just wanted to sort of get your opinion on some of the signings that you've made this summer. There's been a few. So Justin Kluivert being for one player that we looked at and kept an eye on for a few years, Max Aarons. Picked him up. And as well as that, another player that we were linked with, Alex Scott. Seems to be highly rated by you guys at Bournemouth. But just tell us about those three in particular.
Yeah, so I mean, the last player you mentioned, Alex Scott, looks like the really exciting one, to be honest. He came into the club injured, as we knew. He's played 3 games and probably been our best player in all 3. We were like, blimey, if we got here, he looks incredible. And then he came off injured against City. So he's a doubt for the weekend. I feel like probably if he's got any sort of knock that we won't risk him, just because you've then got a international break, and he's had a long-term injury at the start of the season, and he's just come back. So it would be, if there's any sort of risk, I don't think we would risk him. But yeah, he's been special. He's going to be a real player. He is. We've got Kluivert's kind of come in and out of the team as we probably expected. We got quite a lot of wide options. There looks like a bit of potential there. He's been at quite a few clubs. Obviously, you had his old man for a bit, didn't you?
We did.
So, and I think that probably doesn't help him because he was so good. But he's a good player. He played really well in the cup against Liverpool. Got his first goal. But at the moment he's been more of an impact sub. But he's been decent for the squad. Max Aarons has really impressed me. Right fullbacks don't always get the kind of credit they deserve. Really get overlooked, but. Yeah, he's been one that's been highly rated for a while, and I thought it was a real coup for us to get him for a decent fee. So, yeah, I like him. He's helped us out at fullback. Him and Kirkes, who's at left back.
It was his birthday the other day. I think they were celebrating. So he again another player that we'd heard about on our channel, a good young left back. Coming in. So, has he had a good start for you guys?
Yeah, he's been really good. It's not a shame, but these players are, Milos Kerkez in particular is a teenager, and he's played every week at left back. So he's still very raw, a lot of potential there. But yeah, we like these players. Zabani's another one who come in last season but was injured, Ukrainian centre half, and he's like playing every week at centre half. He's really good, but he's like 20, so they are quite young. So I think we've got you know, got to take. Sometimes we put a lot of responsibility levels on these players because of the fees. You'll probably have it the same with, you know, people like Lewis Hall and Livramento, who, yes, they're big fees because that's what you pay these days, but you're not paying for now. You know, you're looking for a few years and them to be with you for a while, and that's what we got to remember. The only shame really was we lost Jefferson Lerma on a free to Palace, and the player we replaced him with was Tyler Adams from Leeds, who was an exciting one that a lot of big clubs wanted, and he's probably out for the season. Hasn't played. He came in injured, played 15 minutes in the cup, and now it looks like he'll be out for the majority of the season. So that's one of them things that you just, obviously you've kind of had a bit of it with obviously the situation with Tonali and also Harvey Barnes. Hopefully it won't be as long, but yeah, it's just one of them things, isn't it? You sign a player and you're really excited, and what can you do? I know Tyler Adams has got a bit of a history of a few injuries, so real shame for him. But it was the fact that was our replacement for Lerma. So not having him available has been difficult because some of the fixtures I said to you that we've had, and you don't have a defensive midfield player, it's really tough in transition stuff. You just get caught. And that's been our main issue, to be honest with you. We've had to play Lewis Cook's kind of been in defensive midfield, and he's not as natural at that. So that's been a blow. But you know, the new owners have shown that they'll put their hands in their pockets. So you know, I think if we need it a little bit in January, then they'll certainly look at it again, even if it's just like a stopgap for Adams's injury. And we also got Sinistera from Leeds, who has had a few knocks. He got his first goal against City, so yeah, we're still hoping to see a bit more from him, but it's still early days, and yeah, we're still waiting for a few of them to kind of, because you still say that like Billing and Solanke and probably Kelly are our best players that we already had, but it's going to take a bit of time with the new lads. So yeah, we're excited about little bits we've seen, and that's I think why the optimism is there of being okay, because you think these players are only going to get better. They're all at a good age, so yeah, we're still hopeful, mate.
I just want to stick with Lloyd Kelly because apparently there's an issue with his contract at the moment. He's not willing to sign a new contract. We've been linked with him with a move in January, ourselves and Tottenham. How good is this guy? Because we talked about him a couple of years ago when we first had our first transfer window with the new owners, and Lloyd Kelly was a player that was linked with us. But I think he's obviously still had a period of time on his contract at that point, and obviously a player that Eddie Howe knows quite well. So therefore, that link is naturally there. But how good is he? Is he, in your opinion, someone that could come in to a Newcastle, for example, and kind of stake his claim in that squad, in that team?
Yeah, I think the ceiling's really, really high for Lloyd. He's had a few injuries, which has kind of stopped his progress a little bit, I'd say. But I think what a lot of people like, I mean, Tottenham, obviously, they'd been on deadline day, but we obviously rejected because we wouldn't have had time to get a replacement. And I could see that now watching how Tottenham play, because he's got that pace. And I think if you play like Tottenham with that high line, he's got a lot of recovery pace. I think what almost doesn't help him is that he can also play left back, which means sometimes you just shove him there, you know, to try and, like we've done it sometimes. Kirkes is quite attacking, so we'll just put Kelly at left back to keep us a bit more solid. And when really he's a centre half and he's a bloody good one. I could see, I did hear that when, like you say, when Eddie first went to Newcastle, that it looked like that could happen. It didn't quite materialise. That wouldn't surprise me. I know there's links in Italy as well. A few clubs want him. He won't be signing a new deal. I can't see it. We kind of knew this was going to happen. Unfortunately, we've got to that position. Fair enough. But it's going to be one of them that, because he's out of contract at the end of the season and can go for nothing, I don't see anyone tempted us with a big enough offer in January to take the gamble. I think, you know, if you get like 10, 15 million, you kind of go, it's not worth it because he could keep us up. So I think that will probably be what happens. It was similar with Lerma. I think Newcastle will be in it. Like I say, Eddie Howe bought him to the football club. And he actually bought him in to replace Nathan Ake, really, which says a lot, because Ake's, we'll put it this way, Ake's probably the best player I've ever seen in a Bournemouth shirt. Was incredible for us. And he bought Kelly in as that left centre back, thinking, you know, he could be the one to maybe go up to that level. So yeah, I think if he went to Newcastle, just thinking about it, I was thinking he's not as good as Botman for me. I think Botman's brilliant. But what he'd do is, because he can play left back as well, he could do what Dan Burn does quite well. Dan Burn's really a left back that can play centre back. And I think he would, the depth and the flexibility and the way you'd be able to rotate a little bit better there would help you. So yeah, I could see that. I could see Tottenham. And I'm not sure about abroad. I know there's been a few links there as well. But yeah, we know we're going to lose Lloyd probably. and he'll probably have the captain's armband on at the weekend. So, yeah, he's a player we like, but a player that we probably knew this was going to happen with, to be honest. And that's why we've brought in a few young centre-halves, probably anticipating that this would happen.
Interesting. We'll have to keep an eye out on that one. Newcastle United fans, Lloyd Kelly could well be a topic of conversation in the full early transfer show over the January month ahead. Who knows? We'll wait and see. Look, we're going to get into the game now because I know we've got you for a limited time, Tom. And of course, the way we do it on this show is that we love some stats.
She say I'm Mr. Roll, smooth, just like a silk, soft and cuddly. Hug me up like a quilt, I'm a statistical lover. No take me fee, no filth with my sexual physique. Ya know me well built, oh me, oh my, well. Can't you tell I'm just like a turtle crawling out of my shell, gal? You captivate my body, put me under a spell with your sit on the fence perfume. I love your sweet smell, you're the only young girl who can ring my bell and I can't take rejection. So you tell me go to hell, I'm statastic. Tell me doomtastic, touch me in me back. She say I'm Mr. Romantic, call me statastic. She touch me in my back. She says I'm Doctor.
Nuts. I see that MG has gone away for another year, hasn't he?
Yeah, Thomas Baines when that came on was like, "What the hell is this?
What is this?" Yeah.
Oh, brilliant! The stat lover is in the house. Keith, welcome in. Great to have you back. To throw us some stats our way. How are you doing, fella? And of course, what have you got for us this week, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thanks. Hope you're all well too. Got a load of stats here. Loads of head-to-head stats. Although they haven't played each other a lot of times, Newcastle and Bournemouth, but I do have a load of stats here about the individual teams, goalkeepers, players, and loads of general stats as well about where both clubs are at the minute. So Newcastle's all-time record in this fixture: played Bournemouth 16 times, won 7, drawn 5, and lost 4 games. And a few of those have been at St. James's, surprisingly, as well, in the last 10 years. But Newcastle have scored more goals in this fixture, 26 goals compared to 19 for Bournemouth. And Newcastle have got a better defensive record, 5 clean sheets compared to Bournemouth's 2 in this fixture. Eddie Howe, his record in games against Bournemouth, he's managed 3 games. He's won 1, drawn 2, and lost no games yet. Nick Pope, he's kept 5 clean sheets so far in 11 Premier League games this season, compared to Bournemouth's Norberto Morara Neto, who's kept 1 clean sheet for Bournemouth this year. Callum Wilson, moving on to the players, has only played once against his former club and is yet to score against them. Could this Saturday break that for Newcastle and Callum Wilson? Anthony Gordon as well. Just speaking a little bit about Anthony Gordon, he's scored 5 goals in his last 11 Premier League games, and that's as many goals as he's scored in his previous 51 appearances. So he's really coming into form. Really very much one of the high points in Newcastle's season so far. He's also had 4 goal involvements in his past 5 Premier League games, which is as many as he has in his previous 32 Premier League games before that. So he's really hitting his stride now at Newcastle. Wanted to talk a little bit about Jamal Lascelles as well, who's came in and done a fantastic job since covering for Botman. Although we still miss Botman, Jamal Lascelles against Arsenal, only Kieran Trippier, Fabian Schär and Joe Linton had more touches while Lascelles also made 27 carries, and on the ball, Lascelles completed 86% of his passes, 19 of those, 31 passes, found a teammate over between 15 and 30 yards. So he's really coming into his stride. Dominic Solanke, He's Bournemouth's top goal scorer this season with 5 goals in all competitions this season. And moving on to some general stats here to round off. After winning 2 of the first Premier League games against Newcastle, Bournemouth are now without a victory in the past 7 games against Newcastle, with 4 draws and 3 defeats. From 2013 to 2020, Eddie Howe has managed just 2 wins in his first 10 matches against sides he's previously managed. So 2 draws and 6 defeats and a couple of wins against Burnley as well included in there. And since then, Eddie Howe has won 3 of his last 5 games he's managed against former clubs. Bournemouth, they have 6 points from 11 games in the Premier League this season. And only in 1994-95 season have they had fewer points at this stage of a league campaign in the top 4 leagues. Also as well, against after last week's result, Bournemouth have won none of their 19 league games against Man City, 2 draws and 17, and that's the most that a side's had without winning against a side in Football League history. Newcastle are unbeaten in all of the 5 Premier League away games against Bournemouth. 2 wins and 3 draws. Again, just stressing earlier that a much better away record against Bournemouth, surprisingly, than at home at St James's, where Bournemouth managed to get a couple of wins against Newcastle. Only at Birmingham, St Andrews, where they managed to get 6 games unbeaten, have they got a better away record against a team in the Premier League without losing. And just rounding off a couple more, after losing 3 consecutive Premier League games in August and September, Newcastle are unbeaten in the past 7 games. They've scored 20 goals in that run as well in 7 games, and they've kept a clean sheet in 5 games in this run. 9 of Bournemouth's Premier League goals this season, they've came from open play. They're the only side yet to score from a set piece so far this season. And Bournemouth have only won just 1 of their past 15 Premier League games. They've had 1 win, 3 draws and 11 defeats, with a few defeats at the back end of last season as well. And that win came against Burnley, Vincent Kompany's Burnley, as well, 2-1 a couple of weeks ago. And that rounds off the stats for tonight.
Pleasure as always, Keith. Fantastic stats in there. Nicely balanced and well-rounded as always. We appreciate it, and so do the chat as well. And Tom, you got some backup. Sorry, Chris, 1 second. I just stole it off you. He's got some backup. Up with Tommy Jordan, back of the net. The fan channel team, they're rallying around you for some support tonight. Great to have him on there. Brilliant stuff. Great stats, Keith. And look, let's hope we can improve some of those stats after Saturday, as we always say. That's for sure. But I want to get to the team news now. This is where we kind of talk about who's actually fit and available. So I think you can see the tactics screen. I believe you can.
Yeah, mate, you can see it.
Tom, we'll come to you first, and we'll get you to select your 11 from the squad available. The one thing I was putting the squad together, I realised you got 4 goalkeepers within your sort of grounded squad. I was quite surprised at that. But talk us through your team. And is it correct that Neto isn't available?
Yeah, I think he's just come back to training. But the reason we've got 4 goalkeepers because we had 3, and then Neto got injured and Darren Randolph was ill, so we only had 1 goalkeeper. So we recalled Mark Travers from Stoke. He was out on loan at Stoke. So yeah, Mark Travers has come back from Stoke but hasn't played yet. Radu is on loan from Inter Milan, has been filling in for Neto because Neto and Darren Randolph have been unavailable. So he'll probably go with Radu again. He might chuck Travers in just because we let in 6, but I think if you're going to be sensible, I think you'll probably just stick with Radu in goal. Across the back, we look all right. I would assume that Max will go back to a 4. We went to a 5 against City, as everyone does. But I assume we'll go back to a 4. So Max Aaron's right back. I would assume centre halves. I'll probably say Mepham and Zabani have been the main centre halves at the moment, just because he's in certain games against bigger teams, which obviously we can consider yourselves to be one of them. He puts Lloyd Kelly in at left back over Kirkes of late. So just because I think it was our last home game we went with that. When we won, I think he likes Lloyd Kelly just because he's a little bit more secure there against the top team. So I think he'll probably go with that. Midfield's difficult because I'm assuming Alex Scott will miss out. But Lewis Cook's back from his suspension, so I'll put Lewis Cook as kind of the deepest. And then he'll probably have Philip Billing and Ryan Christie either side in the centre, I would have thought. Marcus Tavernier will be on the right. For sure, wherever Tavernier is. I think there he is, 16. He'll be on the right. He's been good for us. I think he'll probably go Semenyo off the left. Played really well in the last home game, scored against Burnley, and he's a bit more of a goal threat from a wide position. So I think we'll go with him. And then obviously the main man, Dominic Solanke, will lead the line. That's how I probably think we'll go. But yeah, as I say, we're hoping Scott will be okay, but I doubt it. And like I say, with the break, I wonder if they'll just not risk him. I tried to do your team lose earlier on a preview I did, so I'll be really interested, because I said the Callum Wilson one's obviously up in the air, whether he'll be fit. But apart from that, I went, well, the team picks itself, because everyone else, I think I realised that apart from Dummett and Ritchie, everyone else was youth team apart from the 11. So I thought, kind of picks itself then. I'll see if you do the same as me.
Yeah, let's get into it now. The one thing I'll say is, and I don't know whether it will come up on the screen here actually, is that we did get some positive news today. I don't know if it did come up on the screen. We've got Harvey Barnes. Harvey Barnes is back on the grass. Not going to be fit for this weekend, but he's back on the grass. Now, we thought we wouldn't see him until 2024. But that was some positive news, and a few people have mentioned that in the chat as well. So that's great to see. It was a really unusual injury that kind of put him on the sidelines. And so, he'll be a welcome addition coming back. And actually, we didn't expect anyone back apart from Isak and Botman between now and sort of the new year. So the fact that he could be back before then is a real positive. So, great news from that. But Chris, as we always do, put your 11 out there and we'll get Keith to critique it. Let us know what you're going for, fella.
Yeah, so this is a bit of a difficult one for me, and I'm going to throw a curveball in there, and I don't know whether Keith will correct me on this. He probably will, but I'll throw it in anyway because I've got a theory behind it. So I think Nick Pope will be in goal.
Okay.
I think, the two centre-backs will be Shaw and Lascelles.
Okay.
Yeah. So I say, it does say F Shaw, yeah. Now, this one's interesting because it's whether I go with Lewis Hall or whether I go with Trippier at right back. Yeah, do you know what? I'm going to say Kieran Trippier at left back.
Okay.
And I'm going to say Livramento at right back. Now, the reason I've done that is because I think Eddie Howe will want to play Tino Livramento. And I think Kieran Trippier can't be dropped. So I think he will go with Kieran Trippier at left back, and I think he'll play Livramento at right back. Now, the interesting one, which, again, that is method in me madness, I'm going to say, I don't know why, I think Lewis Miley's going to play in the holding role. I think him coming on, making that little cameo against Dortmund, was him, Eddie maybe introducing him into it a little bit. Now, the reason I say that is because, obviously, we're a bit light in midfield with Bruno not being available.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking he will save Willock to go on the left wing. And the reason Willock will go on the left wing is because I think Anthony Gordon will be playing through the middle. So, yeah, sorry, I've skipped a beat there, haven't I? So, yeah, Anthony Gordon through the middle. And then I think Miggy Almiron will be on the right.
Cool.
And then in the midfield, I think it will be Joe Litton on the left, and I think it will be Sean Longstaff on the right.
Okay. That's your team there. So they're the teams out there. Keith, what do you make of Chris's selection? Would you change anything? Would you keep? Are you going to keep everything? Let us know what you're thinking.
I certainly see the logic of what Chris is saying there about Trippier and Livramento. If I was picking that side, I would definitely, I would think having Trippier and Livramento in your back four out of what we've got at the minute to select, that's a stronger back four. Mm-hmm. Sticking Livramento at right back and switching Kieran to left because he's the more flexible of the two. It's interesting though, on earlier in the week though, he was played at a more advanced role, wasn't he, Livramento? Yeah. So that was actually surprising, obviously, because he can get forward and back, and it makes you wonder is how going to play with that again, going up and down the wings, and maybe bring Hall in, but I prefer that as a lineup. I just think that's a stronger lineup. We're in the business end here. We want to win. We had a disappointing night the other night. Let's get back to winning and get them points back on the board again. Win where we can.
And it's interesting as well, Keith, because I toyed with it and thought, oh, will he put Livramento on the right? But then I thought, if he puts Livramento on the right, then where would he play Miggy? And then I'm thinking, if he plays Miggy, I don't think he'll play Miggy on the left because he never plays Miggy on the left. You could argue he might put Miggy in the middle of the park, but is that risk because he doesn't really play in the middle of the park? So it's like, well,
it's not his strength to play Miggy in the centre. It's not his strength. His strength's on the wings there, forward and back. So, yeah. I mean, if Hall plays a part, will he play in that right back role, or could he play in the middle of the park? Has he played that role earlier this season, like against City? Where was he playing when he played against City?
I think he did play central midfield on the left of the central midfield. Tell me if I'm wrong there, Pete.
He did.
So it's either, for me, it could either be Miley or it could be Hall in the middle of the park there. But I do agree with your logic as well, Chris, what you were saying. Eddie seems to tease it in a game earlier. He'll seem to bring people in for maybe 15, 20 minutes to sort of see how they are, see how they'll get on in a game. And then it seems to be like a precursor to the next game where they actually start. So I can actually see that being a more likely decision that it would be Miley. And it's just a decision of, is he going to keep the similar formation to what he did the other night, and have Livramento playing in a more advanced role and having Hall in there? But I think I'm going on the basis, picking the team here, that this is your strongest side. Go with that back four you've got, Chris. Stick Miley in there because it's logically, I think, Howe will put Miley in there. You've got Joe in there, and you've got Sean Longstaff. That's a strong midfield, and then you've got Almiron there going up top, Gordon in the middle of the park as well because he's done so well in an attacking role, and it's been really good seeing Willock come back in as well. I think it's timely that he's actually came back into the side. Coming back from injury himself, he's done brilliantly since he came back. Certainly in the Premier League games, he's been back. So, and against Man United last week. So yeah. That's probably about as strong as we're going to get it at the minute. It'll be interesting again to see what subs we use to change the game later on. Let's say if Newcastle are a couple of goals up, with the international break coming up, who he brings on, if he's going to bring on the likes of Richie for some game time as well in the second half.
Get a good reception if he does. We love Richie.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What do you think on it, Pete?
It's an interesting one. I'm going to be quick with this because I know that Tom needs to go in just a second. Good. I actually think Wilson's going to be fit.
I think so.
I don't think he would have been selected for England unless Southgate had a call with Eddie Howe to say so. And I think it was a precaution more than anything. I think they have to be careful with Wilson. I think if there's any slight concern, they'll bring him off because he's our only striker at the moment. And so I do think he'll be fit. So I do think, Gordon will shift out to the left. I think Willett will come into the middle. I think Miley will shift to the bench, and we'll have more of just say, for example, well, it'll probably be Joe Linton will come onto the right, Willock onto the left. It'll be sort of more this, and we'll have Wilson up here, obviously, instead of the Miley situation. We'll have more of that than anything else. But I think if he's not fit, I wouldn't go against that being the team. I really wouldn't. I mean, there may be a question mark as to whether we bring Hall in and we maybe play Hall. Longstaff is the sitter instead of Miley, and we play Hall off the left rather than Willock or Joe Linton. I don't know, but I'm not going to argue against that team if Wilson isn't fit. That's for sure. That's a team that I think can go and get the points, and it'd be great experience for Miley playing in that deep, because we know we can play there. We did it in pre-season, that's what I think. But just really, really quickly, again, that'll be a really interesting battle there. My circle's not very good. I'll do that again if it works. That'll be a battle there. Lloyd Kelly, pace up against pace in Almiron. That'll be a really interesting battle in there. As well as that, I think that midfield battle between these three, and obviously what our boys do kind of in this section here, I think will be where we win the game. If we're going to win it, I think it's whether we can get beyond them. I genuinely am worried about their threat, particularly on the counter attack. Having watched Bournemouth a lot, this man, Philip Billing, I really like him as a player. I put it on social media that I would have liked Philip Billing at Newcastle, whether it was for a squad player or playing European football, because I think he has a lot to offer. I really do. And he likes to get forward. He likes to join those attacks alongside Dominic Solanke in those positions. And I think that'll be a really sort of tricky situation to try and manage his runs in and around this area. I watched him last season do it against, I think it was against Liverpool, and he caused no end of problems. I do think this partnership has enough to keep Dominic Solanke quiet, but I don't know enough about Semenyo and Tavernier, so I don't know what they're capable of. But I would trust Livramento up against anyone at the moment with the way he's playing. He's playing so well, arguably our best player in every game that he started. And with Joe Willock playing on that left, I think that'll be a really interesting battle against Max Aarons. That's for sure. So there's some interesting battles in there. But I think Longstaff is going to be key in that midfield. Is protecting in here, looking after Miley, and making sure that things are ticking over if that team is playing. But yeah, they're just kind of my initial thoughts. I do think it could well be a counter attack or a set piece that wins the game for either team. We've got to remember Bournemouth's is a tighter pitch. We like bigger pitches to play in and use the space, but actually, from a pressing point of view, that smaller pitch is perfect for us. So it'll be interesting to see, where we get our joy from, because I think it was from a high press situation that we actually nicked the equaliser where Almiron scored last season, and whether we do that again. That team here that you've selected, Chris, with Gordon leading the line with that high press in and around here, could be the difference. But yeah, they're just kind of some of my thoughts on that, really. If anyone needs to add anything.
I think I was going to say that that was my only. So when I had to predict the Newcastle team, and I basically just didn't have Miley. I had Hall, and I think that was my feeling behind it. I know Miley's obviously someone that you're looking at, but because Billing's such a main threat, I just think that'll be chucking him in at the deep end, putting him up against Billing, who is probably our main man at arriving late.
He runs into these areas, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So he will literally be coming up against Miley like directly.
Yeah, so I just wonder if he puts Longstaff in there just because he relies on him a little bit more, a bit more trust, maybe. And then, you can always obviously bring Miley on if the game's going as according to plan for you guys. But yeah, that was an interesting shout, putting Miley in. That could happen, I suppose. But I'd probably prefer that because I think Billing will be able to catch him out a few times. But as you say, Livramento I'm a bit worried about. He's ex-Southampton, so he'll get a few boos. But I watched that game against Dortmund and he was best player on the park. So, yeah, a little bit worried about him. And it'll probably be who he plays at each. I get that, putting Trippier to the left. I think Livramento probably more comfortable on the right. But he'll cause problems. Ex-Southampton, they get boos. So he'll probably, they always get pumped up when that happens, don't they? So, bit wary of him.
Definitely, it should be interesting. But yeah, certainly that midfield choice will be interesting, and I do think it hinges on Callum Wilson, who I do think will be fit. Because I genuinely think he'll want to be in the Indian team, and he'll want to prove his fitness. He's fighting to get into that Euro squad. This will be the last squad, in my opinion, that he gets into for a major tournament, and I think he's going all out to fight with Ollie Watkins to get into that squad. Currently scored more goals than him in the Premier League, and I think he's going to want to be able to prove that after Watkins scored. And I think he's going to do everything he possibly can to be in that squad, and that means playing on Saturday. So I do think, in my opinion, that will happen. But we'll see how that one works out. For all we know, well, Botman and Isak in the squad, because you know what Eddie Howe's like, he don't tell us anything. And then all of a sudden, we've got those boys in the squad, and then our confidence levels are through the roof. But look, great discussion, boys, and great opinions on both teams and how they will work out. And look, if we could continue that for another hour, I'm sure we would do. But look, Tom, I know you need to go at this point now. So first and foremost, a massive thanks for you joining us. Always a pleasure. It feels like just a chat in the pub with you when you're on the show with us, and it's a great time. But just before you go, plug your channel and also give us your prediction.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Back of the net AFC Bournemouth podcast. So yeah, go and check that out on YouTube and all that stuff. It's a difficult one with the prediction because last season I came on for the home game and the away game, I think, and spoke to you, and I said you're going to dick us. We're all over the place, and we drew both games.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking, well, do I just say you're going to dick us again? Because it worked.
Just go the other way and say that you'll hammer away.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen. I think like you said when you read out the stats, I know that I think we've only ever beaten Newcastle at home when I wasn't born. So we haven't got a good record. I've seen us win at St James's a couple of times. Beat McLaren there, and I think it might have been Rafa as well. But yeah, we struggle at home. Maybe we could nick a point. But because it worked for me last time I was on the channel, I'll say you'll win. But I've got to feel. Put it this way, we all know we're going to get points off teams in and around us is more important. But if we can't be a little bit optimistic with the injuries you've got, the suspensions you've got, it's a good time to play, you guys. You've just come back from Dortmund. You've got so many injuries. We've got to look at that as right. We could get some in there because they're down to the bare bones. And if we can keep ourselves, if we're in the game on kind of the hour mark, you're not going to have loads of ammo on the substitutes bench. Whereas our bench is probably going to look quite strong. So, yeah, I think we've got to hope we can nick something out of this. So, yeah, my head says you'll probably have too much. My heart says we'll nick a 1-0 again.
Ooh, okay, yeah, we'll stick to that or 1-1, and then we'll see how it transpires. But look, we'll let you go, Tom.
Cheers, boys.
Speak to you soon.
Cheers, man.
Turnaround game.
Take care. Cheers.
Legend.
Take care, Tom.
Take care. Great to have Tom on. Brilliant guest. Great opinions as always. We always enjoy that chat, don't we, Chris? We do. Yeah, he's a top lad, Tom. And do you know what? He made me think then as well about the injuries and stuff like that, and the fact that they did get 2 draws last season. That is interesting. So hopefully it doesn't bite us on the bum, because this would be typical Newcastle, wouldn't it? To not pick up maximum points when we've had that fantastic win against Arsenal. So hopefully we can do enough. Definitely. And look, Toonarmy.com, they put a tweet out earlier. Eddie Howe could field an outfield team of unavailable players this weekend. You just look at that team, obviously with Bruno on suspension. it's a pretty good team. I'm not going to lie. With potentially Callum Wilson not being available, there's a lot of players there to choose from that could have been difference makers. And it goes back to the Dortmund game. You know, you look at those sorts of players that were missing. Those guys could have come on and made the difference to get us back in the game, or started to ensure that we weren't in a position where we were losing. So, you know, we are going through a difficult moment at this moment in time with injuries and stuff, and we will get a point in this season where we've got the absolute riches of anybody to choose from for a starting 11, and things are going to get better. That's for sure. There's no doubt about it. But it is going to be interesting. There's no doubt. But look, we'll fight on. We'll keep fighting on through the injuries, and we'll move forward. But is there any comments, questions related for us? I think there may be a few before we kind of wrap up. Oh, I think you went on mute.
Yeah, sorry, that was me. Yeah, so we've had a few really good questions and comments. So I'll start off with LB 1998, who's given a £2 super chat. So thank you very much for that. Your players still having nightmares about Doku, so I think that was aimed at Tom. So yeah, I mean Doku was fantastic, wasn't he, against Bournemouth? I've got to say. You know, absolutely. I'm sure Tom.
He's been better than I thought he would be at Man City.
Yeah,
he's become one of their kind of, or not a key player, but becoming a key player. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. He's given Pep a headache, really, hasn't he? Because obviously he's got Foden, he's got Grealish, and then Doku playing so well. He's kind of undroppable at the moment. Rich Joblin, hope you're well, mate. That was thank you very much for the super chat, Rich, and that's to go towards getting rid of that music.
Let's bring MJ back, eh?
MJ, yeah. Like
I think people are politely saying to bring the other one back.
Yeah. Well, maybe
bring Bond back. We're due a new Bond film. Bring one back.
That is true. That is true. Bring Bond back. There might be some other suggestions. You never quite know what Daz is cooking up. Daz is always cooking something. So you never quite know what's around the corner. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be something around the corner. You know how it is. But yeah, no. Thank you for the super chat, as Chris said.
Yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, big shout out to Back of the Net, the AFC Bournemouth fan channel, up to Tommy Jordan. I know you mentioned that before, Pete, but yeah, great to have support from the rival fans. That's fantastic. Yeah, there is some really interesting ones here. So yeah, Tom Dixon says, major concern this weekend is Wilson with his hamstring injury, and we obviously touched on that before, which is right. And like, it's interesting you're saying, Pete, that you think that he might make it, and hopefully he does make it, because it'll give us an extra person to put on the bench, which is brilliant. Because it was funny, you probably wouldn't have seen us looking at it, Pete, because obviously I know your screen's blocked when you put the team on. But it was funny because when Keith and I selected the team, when you looked at the bottom on the bench, it was like out. So it will be really interesting to see what the bench looks like.
Yeah, definitely. See, I'm just going to do this really quickly, and the reason being is because this is what I thought the team might be without Callum Wilson. So I didn't have Miley in my team, although I'm not against that at all. But I thought the team could potentially look like this. It could either look like this, a little bit like he played there against Man City in the Cup, Lewis Hall, or it could be like this, where we thought he was playing there, and then all of a sudden he wasn't against Man United, and then he was again, and then he wasn't, because
that was weird.
The lineup. So I thought that they might go with Lewis Hall because he's had more starts this season in competitive games than Miley. But if you're going to play someone in their best position, you're probably going with what you've selected, really, in having that. But I'm not quite. For me, I do think, honestly, that the majority of the players that play on Saturday are probably going to play a full 90. So, for example, Miguel Almiron will probably play a full 90. Anthony Gordon will probably, if he's starting up front, will probably play a full 90 because he's got the rest then because he's not in the England squad. There's players like Joe Willock will probably play a full 90. Joe Linton, like these guys will play full 90. So I don't believe, depending on the result and how we're playing, that there's going to be many subs being made. But as you've said, if you go down the team, Isaac injured, Wilson we're not sure about, Jacob Murphy injured, Barnes injured, Matt Ritchie could be an option, Bruno suspended, injured, Anderson suspended or banned, Tonali, Lewis Hall an option. So you've got Ritchie, Hall, Matt Targett's injured, just had surgery, hope you recover as well. Manquillo injured, Kraft. So you got Ritchie, Lewis Hall, Kraft. Yeah. Byrne injured, Botman injured, Paul Dummett. And obviously Dubravka. That's it. That's all good.
We're going way for thin. We'll have to remember, obviously, Kraft's been out a while, hasn't he, as well? Himself.
I mean, we had Ben Parkinson on the bench against Dortmund. Young Ben Parkinson that played, he came on as a sub against Brighton over in the States and did well and was unlucky not to score. But there was no way he was going to come on as a sub against Dortmund. And with all due respect, unless we're winning 3-4-0, he's probably not going to get on again playing this weekend.
But I think, and seriously, I think we've talked about it previously, and I know we talked about it in the chat recently, Pete, as well. I think, looking at the reserves, looking at the younger players, looking at some of our lone players, I think we're going to have to really do that as an option, really, in the short term. It might be something that we might need to do to manage ourselves until the transfer window, really, getting some of those under 23 players in the lineup like we have done it in previous seasons when we brought Anderson in last year.
Yeah. To be fair, that one. I just looked at what Rich has put on here. I don't know what you think about this, actually. Lewis Hall has played to 6 for Chelsea. Would that not be a better in mid? Would you think Lewis Hall playing as a 6 would be a better option than Lewis Miley? What do you boys think, Chris? What are your thoughts about that?
For me personally, I'd say no, only because I think when I watched Lewis Hall, I think I said this to you actually on the show, didn't I, Pete? When I watched Lewis Hall against Man City, I wasn't convinced, and I think I said to you afterwards, didn't I?
And was he subbed at half time as well, Chris? He
was pulled.
Yeah, he was.
And I think, to me, he didn't look up to speed and he didn't look comfortable. Mm-hmm. We then saw Lewis Hall play left back against Man United, and it was like, yeah, he's definitely a left back. Definitely a left back, because he played absolutely fantastic against Man United. And I just wonder whether Eddie Howe will want to play a player who's not wholly comfortable in the position, because technically, it could really damage his confidence, because if Bournemouth run all over him, that then psychologically might not be great for him. Yes, he's probably further along in his career than Lewis Miley, but Lewis Miley is a holding midfielder. So I just wonder whether he would be more comfortable playing there. And he had a really good pre-season, Lewis Miley. And I think the reason he's popped into my mind for this is because we saw him come on against Dortmund, and it just made me think, is he kind of easing him in and going, right, give yourself a little run out now? The game was pretty much done then at that point anyway. You're in me thinking for the weekend. I just wondered whether that was a little thing from Eddie.
That's generally how Eddie seems to work, isn't it? Really, he seems to, as mentioned earlier, he seems to bring him in as a bit of a precursor, bring him on as a sub as a bit of a precursor to the next match and start. I think Hall may figure, for sure, he'll figure it at some part of the game, it might be within 60 minutes or so of the game he comes on. But I would go more with your line of thinking here, Chris. I think, given with what we've observed against Hall again in the City game, you go with Miley and then bring Hall on at some stage in the second half, maybe in one of the advanced midfield roles or maybe in one of the defensive roles.
Yeah, and as Pete said, you know, if you're looking at you know, Kieran Trippier, he's obviously going to be going away with England. If we're 2 or 3-0 up, thank hope to God we are, he may just go, do you know what, go, you know, give Kieran Trippier a rest and stick Lewis Hall there at left back, bring Kieran Trippier off so that, you know, he's not going into international duty tired. Maybe that could be in his thinking as well.
Yeah, definitely. Guys, it's a great chat. We're going to continue this. Of course, we'll be critiquing our lineups and Bournemouth's lineups and who's going to start and who's not as the lineups come through. We always do, Chris, every week as they come through. We go, you were right, or gone with a different one. We always look at the differences, that's for sure. But any 1 or 2 questions before we wrap things up, mate?
Well, there's one directed at me, and it's from Chantel. And Chantel says, Chris, is there any Everton... What, sorry?
He thinks you're an Everton fan.
Well, I think because she knows that I probably know a lot of Everton fans. Is there any Everton? I think she means any Everton fans who miss Gordon and are gutted at how good he has been at Newcastle. The answer's no, because they are all still very bitter about Anthony Gordon, and they still all tell me how rubbish he is, and how they robbed 45 million off us, and how he's no good, and we'll soon all hate him. But like we were saying before, Pete, offline, I just keep smiling, and in fact, no, it wasn't offline. It was earlier on in the show, wasn't it, when we were saying you know, about all the anti-Newcastle hate. I just take it all on the chin.
Well,
because
can I just ask you at this point, Chris, if you can recall, I may be able to give us the perspective from Merseyside, because I cannot recall. What was Everton's reaction when Rooney left for Man United?
That's a good point. That was it was. Do you know what? It was quite similar. It was quite similar to the Gordon reaction, but they just weren't as angry. It was more that they understood why he left because it's Man United.
Man United, yeah.
But they were all, you know, nobody said, "Oh, he's rubbish. He's what a waste of money." Nobody said that because they all knew he was.
Yeah, I'm just thinking maybe Everton sort of take it personally when one of their own sort of thing go. I'm thinking of maybe it's a repeated, you know, certainly in the last 20, 25 years when the likes of Franny Jeffers and that have left, do they sort of bite at that as well? And, you know, when the big, you know, when one comes through the ranks and next thing they're off to one of the big clubs.
To be fair, it's probably more similar to Franny Jeffers because there was a lot of fans who were like, "Oh, he's crap anyway. He's crap anyway." And then, as it turns out, he didn't do very well at Arsenal, did he? So maybe they were right about that, man. Maybe that's why they're hanging the hat on this Gordon one. Who knows? But yeah, a lot of fans were quite happy with the place that they got for Franny Jeffers. But Rooney, no, because I think it was more disappointment because they knew how good Rooney was, and he was special. He was a one-off. So yeah, there was a lot of hate, to be honest, over Rooney. But now it's a good shout back, Keith. Yeah, I forgot about Franny Jeffers as well. But yeah, when he went to Arsenal, there was a lot of fans who weren't very impressed.
He broke Shearer's record in the England under-21s.
Yes, yeah. He really burst on the scene, didn't he? Yeah. Really burst on the scene, but it didn't quite work for him at Arsenal.
I think he scored on his international debut as well against Australia when Australia beat England. But as you say, it soon went down in flames shortly after that. I think he ended up back at Everton, and it didn't quite work out at Everton, and then he just slid down the leagues.
Yeah, and then he just disappeared, didn't he? I think he retired quite early as well, from memory. But yeah, another shame really. But this question I wanted to put up. Well, not really a question. Well, yeah, it is a question, but I know my thoughts on it, and I think Pete knows my thoughts on it. But Alan Thompson asks, lads, Livramento, I believe, could be a superstar. Do you agree? Keith, I'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been really impressed with Livramento in terms of how he's came and he's sort of took it in his stride, hasn't he? Really, he's just doesn't seem to be phased. Really, he seems to be versatile, adaptive. He doesn't seem to be, you know. It seems you can do a lot with him. Quite agile is what I would say about him. Future England international, possibly as well. For sure.
What about you, Pete?
I think there'll be a conversation about Livramento going to the Euros. I'm not saying he's going to get there, but I think he'll be within the conversation. And the reason being is because I think there's clearly injury issues with Reece James. I think Alexander-Arnold's been playing more as a midfielder in that midfield role. And I genuinely think that because Trippier sometimes can be used as a left, and left is the problem at the moment, especially the fact that Shaw's been out. I think if that continues, I think Trippier may well be used on the left with other options, Colwell, and there could be a space for him depending on the situation. But I genuinely think he could be in that conversation. But at the bare minimum, I just think that Trippier plays his last tournament this summer and bows out, and Livramento comes in. And I think that'd be the natural succession, the first succession of the two, because I think Livramento is playing so well that you cannot keep him out of this team. It is an absolute, it's an embarrassment for him to not be in this team with how well he's playing. Eddie Howe is going to have the difficult situation of fitting him in this team. It's really, really that simple. But that's just my opinion on it. And I think it would be really interesting to watch his development over the season. That's for sure. But I just wanted to, just before we get to predictions, really quickly, no scores, just wins or losses. I want you to just predict for me the scores for this weekend. So Saturday the 11th, we have Wolves against Tottenham as the early kickoff. Chris, what are you going for? Who's winning? Who's losing? Who's drawing?
I might shock a few people here. I'm going to say Wolves win.
Okay. In fact, let's go through the Saturday results for you, and then we'll go through with Keith really quickly. So you're going to go for a Wolves win?
Yeah, okay. I think Wolves are going to win. I think Arsenal are going to win.
Okay.
I think Palace and Everton will draw. I think Man United will beat Luton. They've got to beat Luton. If they don't beat Luton, he's surely out the door. Surely. So yeah, I think they'll beat Luton. I think. Oh, do you want me to leave Newcastle to a country?
Leave Newcastle. Let's go to Sunday. Okay. Come
on. I think Villa will beat Fulham.
Okay.
Brighton will beat Sheffield United. I'm going to say Liverpool draw against Brentford.
Ooh, yeah, fighter.
Yeah, I'm going to say Liverpool draw against Brentford. I don't think Liverpool are due a little slip up, and obviously they lost tonight, didn't they, against Toulouse, which some people in the chat have been making fun of, which I enjoy. West Ham Forest will be a good game. I think West Ham will win, but it'll be a close one. And I've got to say Man City to beat Chelsea.
Okay. Keith, we'll come to you really quickly. Just fire through your wins, losses, and draws, mate.
Right. Wolves versus Tottenham. Tottenham away win. Arsenal versus Burnley. Arsenal win. Tricky game there with Palace and Everton, because Everton have been playing well recently. I think Palace might shade that one. Man United to win against Luton by a couple of goals. We'll leave Newcastle, Bournemouth. Villa against Fulham. Villa by a couple of goals. Really strong at Villa Park. Brighton versus Sheffield United. Sadly for Sheffield United, a Brighton win. Liverpool versus Brentford, one of the closest games probably of the weekend. I think Liverpool might just shade this at Anfield, maybe a 2-1, maybe. West Ham versus Nottingham Forest. That's an interesting one as well, because the Thursday night football thing. Forest playing really well last week, got a great result, but I think West Ham at the London Stadium will win that, and it's going to be a Man City away win comfortable away win back at Chelsea. I know Chelsea got that amazing result on Monday night, but I think City will be too good for them.
Yeah. Okay. Yano said in the chat, if only you were this decisive about Newcastle United's results.
No emotional involvement. No emotional involvement with any of those teams.
That's true.
I was just about to say, working on that proviso, Keith has not predicted one draw there. So I don't know whether that's a hint. I'm just saying. There's not one draw in those fixtures.
We're excited to find out, Chris. But I was going to fly through my wins and losses.
Yeah, go for me.
I think Wolves and Tottenham will be a draw. I think Arsenal will beat Burnley. I think Palace will beat Everton. I think Man United will beat Luton. Let's go to Sunday. Villa will beat Fulham. I think Brighton will beat Sheffield United. I think I agree with you, Chris. I think it could be a draw. Brentford, Liverpool at Anfield. I think Forest and West Ham will draw. And I think Man City will win. I gotta get people.
Going there.
Yeah, I did just for a second, but yeah, I think that'll be it. So if we get time each week, we'll throw those fixtures in each week, and we'll get to see what people think. So people in the chat, we'll get your thoughts on that as well. But we're now part of the prediction section. So fire out your predictions, boys. I'll start first. I think Newcastle United will win 2-0. I think we'll win 2-0. I don't think it'll be an easy game. I think we'll have to navigate ourselves through it, but I think we'll get the goals that will win us the points. Chris, what are you thinking, mate? 2-0?
2-0. I had 2-0. I was thinking to myself, 2-0, nice clean sheet, and I think we will we'll do the business and get the 3 points. I hope.
Brandy and Blaze on lock.
That's it.
Locked in. Those results were good for the Hackers, actually, going through those fixtures. Just keeping an eye out for the Saturday. But Keith, we'll come to you, Dr. Doom, 00 Stato, the main man in the house. What you going for this week, mate?
So, if it had been a couple of weeks ago, for sure, I'd be comfortable that Newcastle would get this by maybe a 2 or a 3-0, you know? But I think those injuries, and it's been quite rightly been called out by yourself, Chris, and also earlier on the show, that's quite a bit of a leveler, isn't it? And that midfield is not as strong without Bruno in it, for sure. Yeah. But and without Wilson up top as well, I think it's not as strong either. But I think obviously with the lineup there with Gordon, it should be interesting, you know, for sure. You know, we can get a win for sure. So I've got two outcomes, and I will be sitting on the fence because I'd be disappointing people if I wasn't otherwise. I can see that for sure. To Newcastle, I can see Newcastle shading it, but you know, you've got the injuries for sure, and it could easily change. So it could easily change. It could be something different, you know. So it could be this also as well. So I think I can see a narrow Newcastle win. That midfield isn't as strong. Billing created problems. It could be 3 in a row against Bournemouth. So it's either the 0-1 to Newcastle or it'll be a draw.
Oh. I was celebrating. I thought, yes,
I knew it was coming. You see, I knew. I had a feeling. But no, I can see why you're saying that, Keith. I can see it.
I can see a Newcastle win for sure. I can see Newcastle narrowly shading this one. I think they might just have enough. But that the injuries is worrying me for sure. I think we've only got like 13 regulars now out of it, given how many players are out injured. Every player we've got out injured there makes up an 11 now, and the only thing we're missing is a goalkeeper who's injured. You know, so there's a big worry.
Keith, you done me. I was like this. I was like, yes.
I did say a narrow 1-0.
Well, I'm going to stick to that narrow 1-0. That's for sure. I'm going to stick to that. But I'm gonna blank out my memory that you went for the other score. We'll stick to that first.
I've got it. I've got to say, I love this. When I was going through the chat then, so Rich Joblin was like, you, Pete? He was like, yes, shading it. And then a minute later, he just went, fuck's sake, Keith, man.
I've got.
Yeah, I was the only one.
I think Newcastle can win this for sure.
We'll stick with that. Great way to end, Keith. That's for sure.
Thank God for international football break weekend coming up, because I don't think I can handle any more injuries. So I'm looking forward to enjoying watching England and not be worried about injuries for a week or so.
That is true, definitely.
He's still being very cagey on Botman, isn't he? Very, very cagey, because we've not had concrete answer as to what's going on with Botman. It's just like, yeah, he's out. So I think you made a good point.
Back in yet? I don't think he comes back in yet, but I agree with you. It's great news about Harvey Barnes, because we didn't think Barnes would be that far ahead.
Yeah.
If he's already on the grass, you've got what, 2-3 weeks before December kicks in? Like at that point, like 2-3 weeks on the grass, you've got to be thinking he's got to be around.
Back in time for Man United at home at St. James's there.
That would be superb. Botman, Isak, and Barnes back for Man United. How good would that? That would be tasty. That's for sure. But look, let's. It was a weird injury. Arapa mentioned it was a weird injury. It was one that I've never even heard of before. Let's be honest. Like just pulling off to run and something clicks. So yeah, interesting one. But look, massive thanks to everyone already. We've got about 80 likes already in the channel, but we've had 160 plus, 170 plus watching the show at points tonight. So make sure if you haven't already, click that like. And the main man, Mr. Chris Hall, is on the button as always. Thank you for supporting the channel. Like, comments, and subscribe. And there's been certainly many a comment tonight. So apologies if we didn't get to all of your questions over the course of the show. But thank you for your support. You guys have been amazing, and we love everything you do to support this channel. Give our sponsors a big shout out. Thanks to Russ and the team at Radiator Shed. Thank you for all that you do. Make sure you get to the radiatorshed.com. And of course, all of their rads are designed and manufactured in Italy. They're all environmentally friendly and perfect for heat source pumps. They offer a home service when be installed if required, and there is a nice selection there. And thank you to Bathroom Design Co. H2O, the Northeast's largest suppliers of Villeroy and Botch bathroomware. Team Valley Gateshead, over 20 years established, ran by the family. So make sure you all get down to the showroom on 11th Avenue, Team Valley Gateshead, and make sure that you, if you're looking for a new bathroom, get involved in some of the fantastic designs that are available from Russ and the team. Huge thank you for their support. Of course, Jordan, Liam, and Dom, the Geordie Journos. If you want to hear and read their stuff, first of all, go to the Geordie Journos YouTube channel and check out their videos. Got some great videos on all things Dortmund and their trip away. But if you want to read all of their pieces, scan the QR code right as you can see it right now and sign up to the NUFC newsletters. And of course, if you want to become a loaded ultra, we have our membership there, $1.99 a month. Join by clicking that blue button. Only can be done on laptop, I believe, not on mobile phone. So make sure that you are on laptop to make sure you become a member as well. And obviously, we are on the move, on the way to 7K. Moving nicely. We're way beyond 6K right now. We've had another 10 plus subscribers just on this show tonight, just as we've been on. So thank you all for your support for all things Loaded by NUFC. That's it, boys. Another show down, another preview down. It can be done on Android too. Thank you, Arapa, for pointing that out. Brilliant stuff as always. This is why we love the chat, because they know the ins and outs as well as we do. Great supporters of the channel, and we love you all for that. That is for sure. But thank you all for your support. Another preview down. Now it's on to the big match on Saturday. Come on, the boys. We're hoping for a win. I'm ignoring Keith's second prediction, but we're all going for a win. Come on, that's in there. That's for sure. And look, support the channel. Like, retweet, put everything out that we've been sending out on socials. If you're not on Twitter, we're on Instagram as well. We are actually on TikTok. There's TikTok out there. If you're a TikTok fan, some of you might not be, but we've got some stuff out there as well. So come and show your support. We'll put all the shows out and continue to support the channel as well. But until then, guys, we do love playing away. Chris, take us away, fella.
How'd you like that?
Boom. Let's go.
Drink it, like me, then tell me if you like that.